All right. This is editing and design, and as we are aware that the coming week we're going to write midterm exams. So later on, I will just go through one or two areas I feel that there might be something coming from that area. Because these two newspapers, normally, I want to mean one newspaper give somebody one. Since we are on the only one, you get all the newspapers. You know what I want to just go through something to do with those newspapers. The front page of that newspaper. I already talked about it certain times, some of the things. So I just would like to go through one or two things again, like the front page of a newspaper and the elements that it contains. So as you can see on the front page, there are a number of elements there, maybe for the sake of what are they calling the key of newspaper. Let's look to depict different elements that are going to be discussed from this newspaper, as it is already been seen. Yeah, that's okay. I don't want to be feeling like somebody's surveying. Right, but as you can notice there, we have so many these elements, and those elements are placed there for a specific purpose. Because if you notice that usually you are going to buy a newspaper copy after noticing some of the elements that are going to be found there. So as a designer, if you are designing a newspaper, it means what you need to do, one of the most important things you need to do is to know what elements are present on that page, and what are the significance of those elements. Why are those elements, or some of those elements, crucial? There are some other elements that might change in one way or the other, but there are also some other elements that remains constant. And the reason is why some elements have to change and some elements remains constant. What are the reasons behind it? And you will notice also that you have newspapers that will have a large following, and newspapers that don't have a large following. Right? So why is that? Welcome. Are you the one? The lecturer was telling me that there were some other students that were here.
Yes.
You are one of them.
Yes.
So what happened? You came here and then you left.
No.
It was not for this class.
Yes, it was not for this
Okay.
class.
I was wondering. No. I came here even before 20 past. So had it been you were here and just come here for 3 minutes and go, and I said no, that doesn't make sense.
We left order.
Order. Oh, you were having a class. Or I mean, you didn't have the lecturer.
We had the.
You had a lecturer. Okay. Yeah, because the way the lecturer was telling me that your students were here, they waited for you, whatever. So I was not that late to say that they were leaving because I was not coming. You know. All right. So what I'm saying that today I wanted us to just go through some of the things we already went through a little bit in the past, but I'll just go in one or two places and then we're gonna go through one of the possible areas. Since next week you are going to write some the exams, so I wanted mainly to talk about. I was talking about the front pages of the newspapers. Yes. the designs, right? So what I'm saying, as you can observe, that each newspaper has got a unique design, and when you get the front page of the newspaper, I think maybe if you can be closer to her, because there's a newspaper, a copy of newspaper there, so there are different newspapers, but maybe for you that you will be checking out. So what I'm saying, we have a newspaper front page, and on the newspaper front page, we have got different elements that are present there. So I was saying some of the elements might change now and then, while some of the elements remain constant. So I was saying, why, as a designer, you need to know why some other elements on the front page of the newspaper don't change and why others do change. And also, I was interested to know the specific names of those elements that are there, and if possible, the functions of those elements. And as you can recall, I said that when we talk about the newspaper, or even a magazine or any design you can do in terms of print and the like, when we talk about elements, is everything that you're going to see that is going to be, as a designer, anything that is deliberately left on that page and you can see it, it's an element. The only difference I said would be when you go to other places, there might be, for example, a story, and at other places they will say the whole story is one element. You see, as you're talking about, like maybe headline, byline, and the text, they could take it as one element. While in this other area, you will separate it to say this is a headline, this is a byline, as different elements. So they might count, okay, how many elements do we have on the front page? So they will calculate each element. And as we know, each element have got a reason why it is supposed to be there. So can we check on the front page there? Can we talk about the elements that we are seeing there? What are the elements that we are seeing on that front page? And the probability, maybe the probable reasons, or maybe or functions of those elements. What are we seeing on that front page? Right? What are we seeing? Anything? You don't see anything. You are not seeing anything on the front page, or you are afraid to say that what you are seeing. The names of those elements. Simple. One. Tell me. I want us to start going through. What do we have? What does this silence mean? It means you don't know. It means you don't see anything. Or it means what? Or you didn't understand what I'm saying. You didn't get what I said. You according to you, but how about you? Your neighbor. You didn't get what I'm saying. Okay, what I'm saying is, are you aware that you have got a newspaper in your hand, a front page of the newspaper? That's what you see, isn't it? What are you seeing there? Whatever you are seeing on the front page of the newspaper. whatever you are seeing, or let me just put it like this, that's the front page of the newspaper. It contains elements. What you are seeing there, you could say, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing that. But those are the elements that made up that front page. So I will say, can you tell me one by each element separate, not everything, one thing, that, okay, there is this thing as an element. And because what I'm saying this because as a designer, the elements that you put there, you put them for a reason. And even for me, if I want to buy a newspaper, you discover that you don't buy other newspapers, you buy other newspapers. Why do you make that decision? It could be that maybe you like a certain newspaper. Why do you like it? Maybe it's the way the design, or maybe the color. So those are the elements. So I'm saying that we want us to just try to play around with the elements, what we see. And I don't say that you tell me something from the book. No, just tell me what you are saying and what you think, without saying that in the book they say this. No. If I can tell you to buy a newspaper, maybe one newspaper between the Nation and the Daily Times, you might decide to say, okay, I'll buy maybe Daily Times. What decision? I mean, what reasons would you give for maybe making that decision? So can we start off with what we are seeing? Simple elements, simple things, anything. And then we can talk about that a little bit, then we go to the next, then we talk about a little bit, then we go to the next. Anyone? Anybody? Okay, so it seems you're blank. Mr. Chancellor, do you have anything to say about the front page? You might have something to say. Maybe you want to say anything, but because it's as simple as say, if I can say that if it can be an assignment to say, can you write an essay on what you are seeing on the front page? What are you going to write? It's a simple thing. What you are seeing, it's not something that what you are seeing. Pages like this. I'm seeing this, and you could guess even decisions. I'm just saying without knowing what maybe the reasons are, but you could see that maybe they put this because of this. Because if they place something elements there, they most of the time they are reasons that they are putting it because they want. It's their target audience. They want to attract you as readers to make you go and grab the newspaper. You see? So they might put some other elements in a certain way, deliberately. You see? So those are the elements. So for me, the exercise I wanted to do in the morning, I wanted us to talk about as much elements as possible of that on that front page newspaper. To make sure that if somebody could ask you, what is this? You should be able to say, oh, this is chakuti. And this is usually used maybe something like that. And the funny thing, if I'm not mistaken, didn't I send something else about WhatsApp, guys? I was sending, I don't know if you might say, I said something else. I think in one of the page, I think there shouldn't be front page newspaper. It was labeled there. Something like that. So I was hoping that you go through and see one of the things, this one, and then our negotiate a discussion could be made easy. Okay, it seems like you because of the way you are making me that when I go through, I make assumption that some of the things you know. So you can say, I don't know, maybe you don't know completely. Zero, It's like you're making me to say, no, I should study from scratch now to like study to define things, the smallest things. No. I think let's not make ourselves too much lazy. Let's not wait for spoon feeding. Because spoon feeding is bad. Is the problem of spoon feeding. When you go to other schools, if it might be other school, you'll be saying, no. These are tough. So you should think a little bit. Okay, I can even start there, but I'm surprised that you are failing to just talk. Okay, let me put it this way. In this course, as media men, if there are people who are not supposed to be afraid to say something, it's supposed to be us. If there can be a group of people, can you say something? As media men, don't be people who cannot say. You have got something in your head, but you don't want to say it. The thing is, I don't know if you have got a public speaking course, but when you go through that course, you discover that most of the times, if you had a chance to say something, then you stop yourself to say something. You had a little bit of fear. Once you stop yourself from saying something and you let it go, that small fear increases. Instead of being reducing, it will now increase a little bit. Next time you don't say, but when you say you are fearing, then you say something and you discover it has happened. It means next time that fear is going to go down. So sometimes I'm saying it helps just to say what you think. That's what I wanted to know. Because what I'm saying, when I check assignments, when I check like even exams, you discover that I see things that I was assuming that you knew. Then because you didn't say it, that you didn't knew, or you didn't speak it aloud, I see it when I'm marking. I thought that you knew this. So it's better here even if it's a wrong answer, it doesn't matter. We're not giving you marks for saying something which is not. Well, I'm just going to collect you. Say, I'm saying it because I've also noted some other things when I was checking like that, some other assignments. I asked you some questions back, and then I got an answer as if people they know things, but I was surprised some of the things I would see. So something like that. So there, let me just kick off there. If you can see the newspaper, you have got then the name of the newspaper at a bigger font. There's a name. That's the name of the newspaper. This is the Nation. That is it's Daily Times or Malay News. Daily Times. Okay. So that part, that is one of the elements. And if you can see that element, that element, the name of the newspaper, it is called what it is called the nameplate. When you hear the name plate, it's like you have a plate. It's called the name plate. It's also called there's another name of that, masthead. Name plate or masthead. So you have a name plate. Yeah. Name plate or it's masthead. This you did the spelling masthead, right? So so nameplate or masthead, newspaper's name printed in special type on the front page. So you can see there's a special type they use. The type the type they use for the nameplate, you discover that it's different from the type that is down there. I didn't check there, but I do believe it's different. If you can check the content down there, you see that I don't believe they have used similar type like that one. It's different. So as you can know, the nameplate is it's like your name. People they will know that it is you because of your name. So it means if you're talking about the nameplate for a newspaper, it's something that people will recognize that newspaper because of that. So as you can see, no wonder it is put in the large font. The font size is large, because what we deal with in the design, and it's exactly, if you have been on Wedi Microsoft Office, you have been writing, I do believe you type your assignments there, and sometimes you have got small letters, then you highlight, then you go somewhere to change maybe 12, maybe 14. Okay, that is the font type size. That's the size. When you go, you highlight, then you go Helvetica, New Romance, that is the font type, right? So the masthead, you see that the font size is bigger font size as compared to the other text down there, and also the font type is even different, and maybe the common thing you can see could be maybe the color. Color, because usually color is used as one of the one of the elements that will identify a specific newspaper. For example, the Daily Times, as you can see, there's a lot of red there. You can see on the front, there's an element of red down there. If you can see the Nation, it's blue from the masthead. Here. You see, this is in blue, and you can even see the background color there, blue. So it's the element of blue, even background of the spots, you have a blue here. So it's something that is used to give an identity to the newspaper, right? So you know that, for example, if you want to have a newspaper, people should be able to recognize it. They say a good news design, a well-designed newspaper, people should be recognize it from a distance, without even reading it. Just to say, okay, I've got a newspaper. From afar, we should be able to say, okay, I think that's the Nation. So one of the elements that will make the newspaper being recognized like that is the masthead and the color of that masthead and some other element. So we have got that element there. So you can, as I'm saying, you can appreciate the function. And then the other element that we have is some other elements are obvious. We're not going to be talking about, I will just talk about random elements that are obvious. We do have headlines there, like a main headline, a major headline. Or let me just go, or let me say, like on your page, you discover there are different stories, but you have one story with a bigger headline, a headline that is in large font, like in this one. So this is the headline, that's and the headline, the function of the headline is to, like if it's on the front page. Front page headlines, it means apart from letting people know what's in the story, that story it is talking about. It helps to sell the paper if it's going to be sold, or to attract the audience, because it's a front page. Usually people, they will buy a paper like this when they see a certain headline here. So this major headline that you see on the page is usually called a splash headline. It's a splash headline because that's the main headline there, splash headline. But if you like to explain it, you could say that it is a headline. And in general, you can just talk about what headlines do. Headlines do, what they do. People, they will buy a paper because of the headline, and also the headline is going to, signal what is contained in that particular story. And as I'm saying, no wonder it is framed in a certain way to give that attention. To act as an attraction for the readers. So we have got that headline there, and usually that headline, as you can notice, is all in capital. I'm not so sure there. It should be all in capitals. because I'm seeing on the nation here. There, is it the same? It's different. Because there should be difference here. No. I wouldn't worry about it. Oh. The type of mistake, which is the type of mistake. This is type. So when I'm saying injury, yeah, this is a newspaper. I think you will read something. Down here, you see that story. In here, stories in the own here, the ability is second. This is another area. But what I'm saying, if you are doing everything, it's going to be a mistake. Everything that I've been placed here are elements. For example, this is an element. This here, where you see the date, it's one another. Here, I want to where another concept basic touch the another element. Aga is called a teaser. We talk about a teaser. It's like you just tell them what you will find inside the paper. But I know people will something there. It means people could buy newspaper because of this system. Because you indicate, but stories about headlines about news stories like that. About teasers, you don't have a story analysis. You see? So if you're talking about a teaser, it means you will be think about the action. What will be the content instead? It will give you no sale, it will give a people they will buy it, will be the same story. Immediately. So you have these ones, but pictures are the another element, separate element. E-books in the books are the stories and books. E is another element. Headline is the simply headline story element. Use another headline. And if you remember that time I was saying that you will have in my headlines because maybe you forgot about the way I talk about the way you work. We say if you have this page, the lines are from here, but these are 24. So your design, you say, okay, here's a 24 arrangement. Meaning, look at simply lazy here. You see, there's a gap here. So in one let me say one column, the issue another column, and that's our column. See? So I was saying, if you are going to write a story, you must put it like this. Then we will go stories. So you can see here, picture, headline, story. Then you have to picture, headline, story. But I can do that over in group. So I said that they combine horizontal alignment, which is you can see here each headline. It's like headline we have some columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, which means the story here is movements. The picture is just from one way out. So we talked about classical movement, and we talked about balance, we talked about so I was saying balance is simple. You are putting my elements here. When you put my elements on a page, somehow going over. So you try to take a scale of whether if you take a picture, look at this and it takes over the picture. Then if you're talking about the balance, then this newspaper is evidence. How do you balance? Who want to put attention here? Even about people who can learn, if attention is too much here, it means it is heavy. So what you want to do, you try, there's some other things like this picture, also picture. As you do it, there's a picture, there's another picture. There's a plan, but I mean, you see picture is might come up, it's a very much that's why they changed it. It's a decision made. You say, no. I think for the sake of reliance, it's a kind of care mission. So, anyway, start talking about. And so I was saying, Papa Caravani made this story. And Iba Kakari will later. So, this, you see this story. Oh, the records. Then my brother was asking, when you see it, you see, in the headline, all capitals. The other headlines are the headline is famous one. There's a reason, but even it's one. So I say, as a designer, you decide to focus. I mean, what is the main focus of your lecture? So the main focus will be a headline or will be a vision. But the main story usually is the main focus because no one ever can do bigger headline sometimes. So you can see here it's said, it's focus coming with as a use of focus, right? And usually you have this some hidden there, which is going to have some hidden, right? And usually you have a picture which is going to be more together with this one, right? So let me just continue from there. What I'm saying. So this is similar. So I'm saying one of the elements we talked about maybe on the website, we said there's a title of the newspaper which is called a masthead. Title of the newspaper is called the nameplate or a masthead. A title. And you know the title of the newspaper, as I said, is like your name. What is the importance of your name? Just think about it. Why do you have that name? People will not going to recognize you. So your name, recognize your name. So it's the same as newspaper. Its name, they will recognize it because of that. So how does it recognize it? It's because not just because of the name, the way it looks. So I said, the Daily Times, you see, font here, name plate, it's the same. It will never, I'm not going to say anything, but now name plate, you carry the same font size, the same font type, the same font color. It's only red, always, I don't know what font is that one. The nation is the same, it's always this. You might color blue, you might color this, you might color size this. If the other good and we center this, it means people will not recognize it. So it's like you, they know, okay, that's your identity. If you can try to change, people there's even, if you see the social media, people are talking about Madonna. Madonna, her lesson, she was trying to change herself, the way she looks. Maybe she made, I mean, she went to surgery, maybe whatever, but she looked different. She was there, I think, by my awards, and people were saying, no. She doesn't look like herself. And she was complaining, no. But the thing is, that's the idea we're talking about. So you can just think about that, about the nameplate. Then we have, as I said, the headline, which is of the main story. And that headline, I said, is what is called sometimes they say news splash, splash headline. Why is splash headline? It's like when you take a newspaper, if they say they are like a paint, if they throw a paint here, it's like that's one of the newspaper. That's where you're going to go your eyes straight on the main headline, right? So as I already said, main headline you can suggest it. What is the importance of the main headline? Attract attention, or it will make the paper sell, and it also signal what is inside the newspaper. I mean, that story, sorry. And then you have obvious things like the byline. Byline is that is each and every story you're going to have there, where there is a by by chance, by work, that is a byline, right? So you have a byline. And below the nameplate, or below the name of the nameplate, you see there's that line where you have got Tuesday, then date somewhere. I mean, there's a date somewhere. You see on the line, I'm remember date June, whatever, but there's a date before my story is a Muslim. You see that after the headline title Mwambam, small letters then I Muslim. You see that there's somewhere where there are letters. There are dates of that paper. You have seen that? Have you seen that? Because I want to ask to all agree that we are seeing that. Just to go to the main title Mwambam. They were I think many must be a good news in Jari. So that date, it is what is called deadline. not deadline, but deadline. So I think you can even know the importance, because even for me, for us, newspaper, but now when you check the date, you discover no, it's not today's paper. So it means it will help you, or they will help the readers to know the day that particular newspaper was published. Yeah, to say, okay, it is for today, or is it for yesterday, or is it for the day? So you have that deadline, and you have also, what else do we have here? We have some obvious thing. You have with the color picture, the photograph. And we might have so many photographs there, it might not just be one. So you have different photographs there, but normally you have a photograph, and you might know what the photographs could be, because if there is a photograph and there is a story, it means that photograph it has to do with it is to do with something, with a story that is it is placed. If it is placed on a certain story, usually it will show somebody who is involved in that story, or maybe it will show an action of what is happening or what is being talked about, but it carries a specific message or information, right? What else do we have? I've said we have got a splash headline, and normally that splash headline is only what I've talked about on the main story. So the main story you're going to see on the front page is what is called a lead story. Like a lead story, that's a lead story. Like the lead story as a whole, the whole story with the headline together. So from that lead story, you're going to have a supporting story. Usually, a supporting story, it will be the second lead story. If they're going to be the story, another story that is not a lead story, but the next. Usually, like if you see in this page, like in front page like Nation, you have got two stories. This one, lead story, this is the supporting story. Up there. And I've said, you can notice that when we find the lead story, the headlines are going to be in capitals. That's the only one it's going to be. The rest are not going to be in capitals. They're going to be on the first letter capital. So that's how where you can see, this, and you see it's capital and even bold. So while the other story is like, it's different. Even in the size, the font size, it's smaller as compared to the main lead story, right? So, but the funny thing is, sometimes it's fun, because I don't know, last week, were you, I don't know, how many people were here last class? Were you here last time? I don't know. Were you here the last class? I know I had two, I had one, right? But I talked about a number of things. I think you two were around it. You ladies. Right. Okay. Right. So what I was saying, because normally some of the people think that because there's a lead story, when you have a photograph, it's supposed to be on the lead of the lead story, which is not true. Sometimes you could have like a lead story without a photograph, then a supporting story with a photograph. It happens because it will depend on what is being talked about. Because like even what I'm saying here, I saw a newspaper whereby a photograph is not for the lead story, it's for the supporting story. But it will depend on but as you know, the reason was it was an interesting photograph of the one that was being shown here. So that's the thing. And you have another element, what is called a jump line. Right? Jump line. I want to check if you have the jump line, but it still should happen. Jump line is where we show you. Okay, jump line is here. You just go. This will be jump line. But it's just point where the story is going to continue. You have stories that are going to continue. They are going to continue on another page. And then if you go inside, the right, like here, there's a national thing, like this here. With the story, it's going to continue with here is going to continue with when you're inside, you really have something that and some other stories. Maybe you don't continue here, like you have. Oh yeah. But sometimes they can even write, and like I said, the student there, that you will continue with this page. So that is the example. Where it is showing you where that story is going to continue. Right? So, and the name is even telling you jump line. You are going to jump from the front page. Right? So a jump line telling a reader where the story is continued. What else do we have here? We have got what is called a cut line. Jump line, and then cut line. Most of the time, cut line, they are confused, they interchanged with what is called a caption. The photograph that you have, they are going to be text below the photograph. That is going to be saying something about the photograph. Right? So, yeah, it's unfortunately here, I'm seeing the way they put this. This is how the problem. Okay, before I went to pay that, you see this is an open slide in this page. Because you see. Okay, this is the same store. But I thought it's another store. But still, there is no line here, you can see. Okay. If you see those stories in those columns, spaces you see between columns, those spaces, there's white spaces you see between columns. Like this is, because you have a column, you increase the column. These white spaces. Those white spaces are called the gutter. Some of them say gutter space, but that is the called this is pentomagas. I don't know what. But it's the gutter. Some of them say gutter space, but this is the name. So I mean, you could think of the importance of the gutter. Think about it that if we had it been we had no spaces between those stories, would you be able to read or to separate it to distinguish? Because it's somehow those spaces are going to be to help you to know that okay, the story maybe has ended here, or you see, it's maybe it's more or less like the paragraphs are going to be easily seen where the paragraphs are going to end because of that gutter. So sometimes you say gutter space. I just want to see how that I'm going to say it here. Here the same gutter. White space that separates columns and facing pages. If there are another page here, another page here, all those white spaces you see in between the columns, the facing pages, is a gutter we are talking about, right? So gutter will help. So the story I was talking about there, because sometimes if you put a gutter where maybe there's a different column, say story that is designed in a vertical column, and then there's another story in a horizontal column. Sometimes people could be confused. They could think like maybe the story, the text that is on the opposite is for maybe the story or the picture that is on the right, right? So I said, if you remember, we said that how to avoid that sometimes you could box it. When you say box, you see the way they have done on the daily times, whereby you just take some other story and put it in a box. You enclose it in a border and maybe a thick border. So people are going to know that, okay, this story that is outside of the border is not connected with this picture outside of the border. It's not connected with the story that is inside the border. And if you can notice, you discover that usually, okay, let's go down there. Because some of the places I was checking out here. Okay. What I'm trying to do is like you have got the elements that are on the newspaper. They are the same elements, but they might differ based on the design of the newspaper. Sometimes the newspaper, some other newspaper, they will change one or two things, but from the top, it's usually the same. You never find a newspaper whereby its title is below or down. It's going to be above the title and the light, because maybe we didn't talk much about the types of newspapers, but I do believe you appreciate. We have the newspapers that we have, like that one. I mean, these ones, we didn't have, like, we have what I call broadsheets. Broadsheets and tabloids. Tabloids. The thing is, usually broadsheets, the actual broadsheets, we are much more bigger than this. If you have ever seen newspapers from USA, maybe you've seen those are the bigger newspapers. They are a little bit like maybe maybe 3 to that one. Eh? This one, the ones we have here, it's like they made the newspapers in between tabloids and the broadsheets. But unfortunately, because we have got tabloids and broadsheets, so these ones are taken as broadsheets. This one, because tabloids could be even smaller than this. But if you check, I'll go outside countries, other countries, these will be taken as tabloids because they're smaller. Because broadsheets, usually, if you take size of this, they would be maybe like this. One newspaper. I remember I used to have newspapers from the USA. It's as if you have taken maybe a cloth. You are checking the cloth. This is a newspaper. You have to be putting it to read. So say newspaper. You have all this. So those were the broadsheets. So I think we in Malawi, maybe try to save money. They made it smaller, right? But usually, although broadsheets, tabloids, they will have the same design. The only difference would be maybe on the tabloids, they are usually you have a lot of text and pictures. And the tabloids are those newspapers usually. If you check the history, they were popular in the 1960s, around after World War II, because people before World War II, newspapers were reporting all about the war, war throughout. So people got tired of listening or reading about the war. So they wanted to bring something different. So they came the newspapers. If you have ever heard a term called yellow journalism, I don't know if you have ever heard that term. Maybe you have heard it before. Yellow journalism. The journalism that is yellow. I don't know why they call it that. But yellow journalism is the type of journalism, or what is called sensational journalism, whereby they were reporting, it's a type of newspaper reporting whereby they concentrated on gossip. In Malawi, we had that type of, maybe if there was a newspaper, was it Weekend Times? I don't know if you have seen it before. It was coming out on Friday by Daily Times, BNL. It ended. It was reporting only gossips about celebrities. Is it celebrities journalists? You say, so usually, unfortunately, most of the stories were based on gossip, which was a problem. But because of this gossip, people like gossip. They already know once you put gossip, people are going to be buying it. So they could just find it. So there was most of the celebrities. So that's what happened. So most of the journalism, many type of publication, they had you see, it was like a magazine. You know, even have some of these magazines sell. They would just have a picture, maybe of Lihada, and say something else. People are going to buy without even putting a lot of text to see what has happened with Lihada. To check inside, maybe just a rumor. It is a rumor that it is this. They have already bought the magazine, so they are using that. But these ones, I think, on the size, they model on that one. But it's a little bit type of dangerous journalism because it could be sued. I think that's why the BNL paper ended, because it started writing stories without evidence. Now, the journalists were even in danger because the people wanted to beat them up. People's careers were even ending because of that. So it's a dangerous time. But that is that. Okay. So let's just conclude other areas. We have got text column, which is already columns. I was talking about where you have text inside. Those are text columns, and we know what the text columns are for. You put text in there. That is text of the story that people are going to read, right? Then you have got what else do we have on this? What did we not say? I wanted us to go through. We have got that column whereby there are adverts down there, that line. You see all the adverts, the whole line. You know? And if you remember that time we talked about that if you box your story, because you might box the story because you don't want people to get confused with another story. So I was saying the only problem is those adverts you see down there, they are all boxed. So usually when you put the boxed advert, a story, especially inside the page, if you put in a boxed story and you have put boxed adverts next, people would think like that story is an advert. That's where the problem would be. They would confuse it. They would say, oh, this is an advert. Oh, this is also an advert. So when you are trying to box the story, you need to be careful with maybe on the other side. You check if there are not boxed adverts. And if there are so many of them boxed adverts, it would be a problem because people would confuse that. Okay. What else do we have here? Photo credits. Usually we also have photo credits. The photographs that is going to be there. If you see somewhere else, there's a name of a person who took that photograph. If they don't put a name, they put maybe it's a final photo or something. But there's a photo credit. I don't know. Yeah. See it. They make sure that there's a photo credit. And they say photograph. And they write a name. So it's another area. So you put some photo credits. I think the didn't put these. It's because maybe they are small photographs. No one, but it's just a mistake. No one was supposed to do. Sometimes it's just a laziness of the design that they don't want to do. So why didn't they don't follow the things in the game? Okay, let me check the example here. Give me that here. These guys were just lazy. I think we didn't want to. You are seeing this one there. You see this side. Because you need to acknowledge this. You see this one. You see it. So it's very fun. So the teaser I was talking about, see, the other part you see the DNA and data and Jesus are here. Here you see the Jesus on this side. So the element is almost the same. Here is line with line. This we have that line sit down there. Yeah, see some line is on some different. right? So these are the other areas that you can check. So I was saying, here you see these, well, we have headline inspection, all the stories that are inside. These are called teasers. Or teaser. You see, you might know everything, but the stories, the content of the story are not going to be here. They're going to be inside. So people will buy this paper and go to this. Oh, I want to read this story. You know, so they will be seeing what is inside, and at the same time, they might also help readers to get a copy because of that, right? So say the CV, photographs here, the get, so the photo credit, right? I was saying those are, let me just write the name because you said, Mountain Line was some while say these are the teasers, teaser like this. They could even say something like teaser. So when you say teaser, it's like, oh, if you checking this teaser, like what do you do? Ungonamina, ungomu sewerese, ungomnamina, ndikupasa ndrama. Here we are ndibase osampasi. Ndam chichawa ne magambo zimuzwa, angontiza zaka. It's the same thing. Kuti ukanga kuti ungopasa expectation kuti they will just kind of anticipate kuti oh, andikusakuda ndikusakuti. So it's the same way but you are anticipating kuti I want to read the paper. Ungombonisa basikulu mulisha kuti oh, this is the story. So people could buy it because oh, they are seeing good this inside. So those are the teasers. So you are going to find teasers there that are going to signal of the stories that are inside. You're also going to find, as I said, photograph credit, and what else? Byline, I've talked about it. Nameplate, I've talked about it, and masthead. There is also what is called a deck. Deck is a secondary headline which provides additional information about the story, right? So a deck, usually, you have a headline. You would have a headline, then you just talked about something, then you have another headline which is below that headline that is talking, is saying more than what the headline is talking about. So that other headline that is going to be talking about more information about the headline. It's what is called a text. Here, text. Right? So it's another element. And you can know the importance because they say maybe the headline, you see most of the time as you say, headline that doesn't have a lot of text. So, for example, if they say this one arrested, so you might not know why is this person arrested. So the deck might say a little bit more. He was caught with $3 million. So it means the deck will not really give more information from what the headline has said, right? So you could know that what the importance would be because you don't have to read the whole story to get what is it about. But at least that's what they say. Deck is a secondary headline which provides additional information about the story, right? What else do we have here? Like a photograph, as I say, is a photo. A photograph is a photo. It can also be called just a cat. When they say cat, like this, it will symbolize a photograph or an art. No wonder that is small story, or that is small description of the photo. That's why it is called catline, as I said. We say catline. It means it is talking about it's a line of the cat, the photograph. So you have a cat line, you have a cat, which is a photo or an illustration, or a cartoon or something. It's a cat. And then a headline we talked about it. A lead, I think you already know about the lead. Lead, when you just say a lead, because I've talked about you have a lead story. A lead story, that's the main story, the major story, the main story, or like the headline, the main headline. is going to be on the main story. Right? So the main headline, if it's on the main story, that is the lead story. So the lead alone, lead is the first paragraph of each story. If you have a story, any story you know, that first paragraph is a lead. That's why maybe they tell you maybe, or even maybe you heard it maybe on radio, they will say maybe the story leads. They will just talk about the first part, what is contained in the first paragraph. Now, since this is an element of this form, we talk about the story as an element. You can talk about the headline of the story as an element. You can talk about the supporting headline as an element, which is a take. Then you can talk about the name of the writer as an element, which is byline. Then you can talk about the first paragraph as an element, again, which is a lead. Then you can talk about a space between those columns, which is the gutter. We talk about the gutter. Then that small pointer that shows that where the story is going to continue, a jump. Then in those small headlines that are going to be placed, those are teasers. Then the name of the newspaper, as we already talked about, the nameplate or the masthead. And then the main headline we're talking about is the main headline could be the splash or splash headline. That's the main headline. And you talk about it. Why is it important? Because that's the main one, to attract the readers, to sell the paper. What else did we talk about? We talked about the catline, whereby you have that is small, what would I say here? Say, descriptive information appearing with a piece of art or a picture, right? And it's also Konwanda. Some people will just call it. Saying I'm talking about what? Talking about catline. Some they call it a caption. If you have heard somebody, they say caption. So when they say caption, and sometimes they say caption story. So when they say caption story, you have, sometimes in the newspaper, you have a picture, a big picture, with just maybe one paragraph, without any other paragraphs. So that is called a caption story. Because you only have a picture and a caption. That's all. So a caption sometimes will be taken as a catline, whereby you have a picture, right? Then you have small, maybe it should be a paragraph or a small line. They will talk about the picture. If you see on the WhatsApp group, I sent a certain document called the catlines. It's talking about catlines. Catlines, we are talking about, you have a photograph here, then you have got some text below the photograph, talking about this picture. Those are catlines. So they were talking about how do you write good catlines. So one of the issues with the catlines is catlines are not supposed to say the obvious. People are shaking hands. Then you are writing down there. Above are two people shaking hands. So that's not there. Because what people are already seeing. So catlines, what you do, it's like on the way you write it on TV news. TV news, if you are showing a house on fire, you don't say, people are seeing already. You mean people that are not seeing the question is, so you as a professional, right, what do? You say what people are not seeing. This house that is on fire, it has been, the fire has been caused because of this. What people cannot see then. So the caption, the catline is the same. What you write, you don't write the obvious. If people are shaking hands, don't say that people are shaking hands. Say something different. maybe the handshake for commemorating each other. And there are some other things that the people need not to do about the guidelines, because the guidelines could be misleading. It happens before, whereby like there was a photograph. I think you see it. I'll send you a document. I've just included some. There are some other, maybe some other clips. You see some other, front pages, and you see that photograph. That file for guidelines. But now they say sometimes like there was a picture whereby people it appears that people are looking on a certain direction, and then you are somebody writes, maybe what could this particular person and this particular person is looking at this person, but the person the person that is being talked about, that the people are looking at him, is not in the picture. So if you are saying no, if you say these people are looking on something, or are looking to are appearing, they are focusing more their eyes on something, and you mention it, how can the people believe that they are looking at that thing if it's not in the picture? So if you write you write something that is not in the picture, but it is doubtful that because if you say, for example, people are looking in this direction, two people looking at a lion, but the lion is not in the picture. So how can the people believe that these people indeed were looking at the lion? So they could be not looking at the lion. So issues like this say that if you are writing a caption, a catline, you need to avoid such things, whereby to write something that it could be distributed to say, no, this could not be true. Yeah. So in simple line, a guideline is that description of that cat picture that is above. So that's another element. So I'm expecting you that, because what I'm trying to say is, I'm saying that you should be able to explain on your own. Don't try to be too hard to remember. You see, you have seen the front page. So you know that on the front page, you're going to have that picture, which is like a cat. That line description of the picture is a cat. It's a description of that picture. Why is it important? If you don't describe it, maybe the picture is not clear what is the person is doing or who that person is. So it might describe or maybe identify the person who is on the picture. People will know, oh, this is this person. Or it might say something about what the people are doing in the picture, or if it's an animal. So it helps in a certain way whereby it will, tell the people, give the people certain information, right? I don't know what thing I'm up there. I don't know if you can tell me. Because it's good that I'm talking about. This one I talked about. I've said you have a headline, then you have got a supporting headline. But sometimes I also say I talked about a deck. This is a deck. DPP as assessor raise red flag. Find the bad music now. You see, it's like what they are doing. Headline says something, but this is now adding more information to the headline. So this is a deck. This will not take. So when we talk about this headline, there was a splash headline there, and this is a deck. And you see what they are doing. They are adding information from the what they did say on the headline. What else? I think, yeah, things. Because I want us to be able to grab the paper like this one. You will select maybe tell you, can you say maybe 4 or 5 things? Can you be able to talk about some elements here? You shouldn't be able to do that. Because if you know what these things are, you can be able to design. You don't just design for nothing. You design because you know the importance of those things. So say, okay, if you have this, you do this. So, but I would also encourage you, because I said there's a document of music design and editing. One of those documents, whereby it talks about, I think for you, person who did not come last time, I talked about, we were talking about balance, we talked about, I think that topic, it's an important topic. We need to go through it to link it with what we're talking about now. We were talking about some other ways of, I don't know what the name of I just forgot the name of the topic, but we talked about, there was a balance, there was principles of design. We was talking about principles of design. So we talked about a number of things. I don't know how many there were, I don't know, maybe 5 or how many, but they're important. So you need to go through it to make sure that you know. Okay, this remaining time, I will just now go through some possible areas that might pop up in the coming exams. Because I usually do that, to not say that, no, I didn't have an idea, you know. And some general things, I think I was saying that, I don't know, did you, the rest of you, gave me submitted your assignment? Because I know you submitted. I don't know if you did, or you did not submit yet. You gave it to Victor.
Yeah, 4 of them.
4 of them. But how come 4? How come 4?
4 of them, including for those that are supposed to submit again. I don't know.
But I'm saying, how come 4?
4. It's because for Nick and Society, 2.
Okay.
And this one, maybe we design.
Oh, so you did them. But the only thing I would say that you wrote them up, I mean, well, let me just say that. Because sometimes some of them, you maybe just write them, whatever. I'm assuming that you follow all the right procedures. Because sometimes when you write everything, maybe you are missing something. Because when you write one, if you see that in somewhere not okay, then you can improve on the next. But let's hope that everything, because that's what I want to also talk about. I'll say there are the things that I will assume everybody knows, but I'm saying issues to do with reference. We talked about reference, bibliography. There's AP, there's Harvard system. I don't use it. So usually we use the APA. So I was saying, what we do here is different with secondary school and primary school. Primary school, secondary school, you can just copy somewhere and pass exams and you are happy. But what you do here, if you just copy somewhere something you did not understand and you pass, you are not cheating the lecturer, you are cheating yourself. Because the stage where what we are is a stage whereby you don't need to memorize. You don't need to write something to pass exams. You need to know things. You see? What you wrote, make sure that whatever you have written, you have understood it. Because after here, you are going to go and start working somewhere. So you are not going to be told that, okay, you are not going to be given can you write this assignment? No. You are going to be told things to do some other things. So if you don't know, it's a problem. That's why I encourage you to say, avoid elements like maybe just copying something somewhere whereby you don't understand it. So on the bibliography, I'm saying, I don't expect whereby you have a bibliography, you have placed a bibliography, then you don't know how you have come up with that bibliography. Because I said, if you check, you download the upper reference, they will tell you. If you have gotten information from the newspaper, how do you reference? There's a way. If you got the information from the internet, how do you reference? It's a matter of just taking time to read it, to say, okay, you have to put this. If you get information from a book where the author is not indicated, there's a way. If you copy from a normal book, there's a way again. So I would like to see consistency. It's in all courses, it's not only mine. All courses, and when you are going to be writing your dissertation, you're going to do the same. So you need just to know, okay, because I notice when I check assignment, I see maybe there are 5 or 6 maybe references. You see one reference is in order. There are other references, you can literally see that this person didn't know what the person was doing. Maybe just copied it somewhere, which is bad. right? So that's the thing. For the assignments, I put yourself. The other thing is, I said it already, I keep repeating, but I said that maybe I would have said it at the beginning. When we talk about an essay is not like you don't expect to just be having having points. An essay, it means you have to be describing things. You have something you describe, you make sure that you connect the paragraphs. And I've said that if you go and check how you write good essays, the idea, the system is the same. An essay is supposed to have 3 parts: introduction, the main body, the conclusion. And the introduction should introduce your work. The middle body should go according to the introduction. The conclusion should conclude it. Don't just say, okay, this paragraph. So those are things that if you follow those, that are going to help you in any other assignments. Make sure that you follow those things, because I don't like it when I assume that people knew, and when I see the someone said, no. I think there's a gap on that one. Okay, let me just say, I talked about some other areas I'm saying we have to watch out. These things I'm talking about here is some of the things that you need to make sure that you know. Maybe you are not keeping your head up, but the things I've talked about here, they are examinable. They are the things that you don't be surprised if you do see them, 1 or 2 things popping up. So if you go through these, you understand this, you do yourself justice. Other things that you can look at, we talked about, I think on those notes, we talked about issues to do with an editor at the beginning. Most everything we talked about an editor. So you need to read about the editor. Right? Somewhere else there at the beginning, they were talking about the editor. Everything about the editor. Right? Because this is the course of editing and designing. Right? So it's much more to do with an editor. So we cannot say that you're doing editing and designing when you don't know an editor. Right? So I say there's that document, use editing and design. Go and check that document at the beginning. You see somewhere they were talking about editors. Go through those notes. Let me see here. What else? I think we talked about layout and design. So think about it just in general, because what we are doing here, at the meantime, remember, we were talking about how different types of layouts. We talked about horizontal layout, we talked about vertical. So read about those. The kind of questions you could anticipate are the questions whereby you could apply it. Not just you have to memorize, but you understand that, okay, this layout, the reasons of layout is this. If I could ask you any question to do with the layout, you should be able to answer from the head. And the clue is, if you know the thing, you don't need to memorize the notes. You can write what you know. If you understand what is layout, it's when you say layout, I believe that you understand. But let me just put it. When you say design, like if I can tell somebody to design maybe a newspaper. A design, it means somebody is going to say, okay, this newspaper should look like this. Should look like this. Should look like this. Okay. There's going to be maybe headline, there's going to be all these elements. Layout is like you have got now the stories, you have got the elements. How are you going to place those elements in the design? Because the design is going to say, okay, we have a space here where you're going to put text and pictures. And this is space I've left with that you will put elements. Okay, that is the design. While layout would be, okay, these stories, should we put these 4 stories here from up to bottom, or maybe we should put these stories from left to right? Oh, so that's the layout. Okay? So you could know the importance of layout. Say, okay, what do you think would be the importance of layout? Because if you have ever seen the newspaper before, sometimes, like example, would be Sunday newspapers. Sunday newspapers, we discover they just have a picture, photograph, one photograph. They don't even have so many stories in front. Why is that? And in your own self, do you think a front page with so many stories, is it better than a front page with few stories? So it's about of layout. Eh? Sometimes you have so many stories, it doesn't look good. Eh? But you say you have maybe like the way it is right now on the daytime in the nation, eh? Maybe having 2 stories would be much more better than having 3 stories. So there would be a reason. So you think about that. Like in this here, I've talked about it. As you see, you just have to know. You will be able to tell. Like we introduced new terms, as you can see, terms like outline, nameplate, all these terms. Eh? So when you hear a term, you should not be surprised. Say, I don't know this term. You should be able to say, oh, this term it means this. So if you can have something like that. If you remember, we talked about it. I think it was under page makeup. Eh? So read about page makeup from the same page makeup. Almost everything that we talked about at the beginning, because we talked about some other things. As I said, we talked about, they also read about the principles of design. The what I talked about, principles of design, we talked about balance, we talked about the contrast, we talked about unity, we talked about, I think we talked about those 3, balance, unity, I know we talk about more than 3, but all those notes are there. So you read them, you understand them. Yeah, so I don't think there's other areas apart from those. Right, but okay. I think the other elements are the same thing we talked about. Just prepare for some of the questions, mental questions, whereby you just have to apply your knowledge on what we have learned and some of the things that we learned. If you found some other terms, then you should be able to talk about them, something like that. But there's not going to come something like strange unless if you don't create your time to read. And the preparation of exams starts now.